Hello everyone and welcome to the final instalment in our series of videos marking Mental Health Awareness Week. We've used this really important time where the spotlight is put on mental health to get to know our TTG and Out to Lifeline Get Travel Talking champions a little bit more. For those of you who don't know, TTG and Out to Lifeline partnered towards the end of last year to find 5 travel industry professionals who are willing to give up their time to volunteer and to undertake mental health first aid training, not just for themselves, for their colleagues, for their industry peers, and to really boost awareness and boost support throughout the industry. So I'm delighted to be joined by our 5th champion, is David McDonald. Those of you probably will know David. David is the Managing Director of World Travel Lounge, which is a series of independent travel agencies. And he's also perhaps potentially the busiest man in travel at the moment, as he is also the Managing Director of LGBT specialist tour operator ChilliMix, which has just had its first kind of trade launch. So David's been very busy. So we're delighted to have him with us today. David, how are you doing? Busy, no doubt. Tired?
Yeah, very busy, very tired. Yeah, but still raring to go.
Fantastic. I love the positivity already. And although I've kind of explained a little bit just there in the intro about your career so far, would you mind kind of, for anyone who doesn't know you, just explaining who you are, how you fit into industry, and kind of what you're all about, really?
Yeah, so as you say, Tom, Managing Director of World Travel Lounge, so a chain of high street retail stores up in the Northwest, which has been going for about 8-9 years now, feels a little bit longer. And then during the pandemic, we launched ChilliMix Holidays, which is the first mainstream LGBT tour operator in the UK, and definitely the first one to sell through the travel trade in our current era. So keeps me very busy, lots going on. But yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. And the fact that you, David, would want to be part of our Get Travel Talking Champions scheme, I suppose to start by asking, what does mental health kind of mean to you? Obviously, it's been such a difficult few years. I know that you've had many hats to juggle, you've had lots of staff to look after in your team. And what kind of most attracted you to the scheme, and what is it about mental health that you find really important?
I think the biggest thing for me, so when COVID hit, obviously as a business, our first priority was to look after our colleagues. And we did a number of initiatives within our business, like swapping colleagues on and off furlough, making sure that we're bringing people in and out of safe offices, etc., for the mental health of our colleagues. But the biggest thing that we didn't really take into account at the time was the mental health impact on our senior leadership team, and myself included. I've always been somebody that's thought I'm a very strong-minded person, and that mental health doesn't affect me. And COVID actually spun that on its head and made me realize, you know what it does? You know, you power through, you're exhausted day after day of call after call after call with customers or your colleagues, and managing that, and actually to take the time back and step back and think, how's this impacting me? And it was probably about 18 months into COVID that it really hit me about my own mental health and, you know, the challenges that I faced, and then thinking that that's what my colleagues were going through as well. And I think when TTG first started talking about this initiative, it really hit home. And one of the things that travel's got that most other sectors don't have is that we're all exhausted, and we're all now more exhausted because the boom's back, which is amazing. The sales are coming in. People feel a bit of a safety blanket now that travel is coming back and that our jobs are on the way to being very safe again. But we've also had two plus years of being exhausted in managing cancellations and rebooks, whereas other sectors where their colleagues were furloughed, they got that break and then they came back raring to go. We've not had that. And I think whilst there has been a lot of mental health challenges in COVID, there's still very much a risk now that there's a different type of stress, and that's going to have a different impact on people and their mental health. And I think as an industry, we need to do everything we can to support our colleagues, no matter who you work for, what your role is, what your level is. We're all in it together. And I think that it's a really crucial initiative.
And was that what really kind of attracted you to it, David? I suppose, like you said, you know, just because the good times are kind of on their way to coming again doesn't necessarily mean that the kind of the good work and the resources and the kind of the real focus that has been put on mental health during this time should be kind of just thrown by the wayside and people just forget about it. This thing needs to kind of continue and have that spotlight shine on it.
100%. And yeah, what attracted to me most is obviously TTG's ethical stance in nearly everything that you do, in all of your programs. but crucially, the fact that there's nothing really like this out there in the travel industry. So there's various retail schemes, etc., and support schemes that businesses can sign up to, but there isn't one overarching, freely available travel industry scheme until now that I've been aware of. Certainly when we've been looking into our colleagues' support. So that's what really attracted me. That's something that's giving back to the sector, again, regardless of what part of the sector you're in. That's what attracted me the most.
And what are you most looking forward to kind of learning and finding out? Which part we're using, as people might know, we're using St John's Ambulance mental health first aid training scheme, and all of our champions will go on 2-day courses, and they get a full qualification. It's a real kind of excellent tool to be able to help people. What are you most looking forward to kind of learning in that sense, David? Is there a particular area that you want to focus on, or?
The thing that I'm looking forward to the most about learning is spotting the signs. So again, I've come across many colleagues during COVID, both internally within the business and speaking to external friends and colleagues in the sector. And there are a lot of people that are very proud and that won't want to say, I want to have a conversation. So to be able to spot the signs and just start asking those open questions that engage people into a conversation, that can then, that might be the one thing that brightens that person's day. And that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most, about how I can help people that might just need that wall knocking down a little bit to open up.
Yeah, do you feel like, obviously travel is such a close industry, hasn't it? And although despite everything everyone's been through in the last few years, people have stuck together like never before, really. In many cases, use amazing stories and amazing support between colleagues. And like you said, people don't work for the same companies and in different sectors, rivals and whatnot. But do you feel like now, that this needs to continue and there needs to be a kind of a more renewed focus, I suppose, as we go forward?
Yeah, I do. And I absolutely agree with that. And, it's quite sad to see in certain instances on social media that most businesses are now stretched, and, ours included. We haven't got enough colleagues in the business and we need more, because sadly the industry's lost some phenomenal talent. What's sad to see now is there's a lot of bashing, is probably the best way of putting it, against certain businesses. And, this is the time for us all to remember that everybody at the end of the phone or a social media platform or an email inbox is a person. And, as a sector, we need more than ever to pull together and understand that those comments and these conversations that are had could really impact someone's mental health. And, it just takes one comment to tip someone over the edge, when we're all trying our best and we're all just trying to do our jobs.
Yeah, well said, definitely. And in terms of your own mental health, David, you mentioned it at the start. Kind of, what kind of relationship have you had? Have you been more aware, like you said, someone who could just kind of power through at the start of this, and then you realise, you take a bit of stock and realise kind of the impact that it has had. You've got loads of kind of colleagues, and you've got a wide-ranging team in 2 businesses. What's the impact been like on you, if you don't mind me kind of asking?
No, not at all. It's been interesting. So again, I always think, for me, it's around managing my stress and my time. So I've made certain changes to the way that I manage my time, and it's simple things like I would come home and I would work till 2 o'clock in the morning because the job needed to be done, and I was tired, and we needed to do stuff because we've expanded very quickly and we run at 100 miles an hour. So as an example, when I'm commuting into our office in Manchester now, I've switched from driving to taking the train. It gives me 4 hours a day additional time that I'm sat there, and I make a point now of doing my work while I'm on the train, and then I try and avoid where possible when I get home to open the laptop unless it's really urgent, because that then gives me my switch off time. And those small things that I've made to my working day have massively helped, and just gives me a bit more control back, because when you do open your laptop at night, and I'm sure there'll be many other colleagues in the industry listening to this, we're all in the same boat, and it's not unfamiliar to receive an email from somebody at 11 o'clock at night that you'll reply to, or you'll send one and get a reply. And whilst it's great that the industry do stick together like that, we also need to remember that we need to take that time to look after ourselves. So that's the biggest thing that I've done, and also delegation, and utilising our team more, which has hugely helped, and brought more structure to the business as well.
Yeah, there's plenty of great advice, actually. I know we've been asking our champions kind of how they try to de-stress, and obviously such a busy time at the moment, but that seems like something that people can take a lot of kind of usefulness for. And David, in terms of you being one of our champions, the whole point, isn't it, is to reach out, like you said, to reach out across the industry, to not necessarily be helping people in your own business or your own kind of consortia or whatever. How do you kind of want people to get in contact with you? And what would you say to someone who perhaps is thinking about it, who's seen this video, who kind of knows that you're going to receive this training? What would you say to someone perhaps who's kind of thinking of making that first step, or getting in touch with anyone, I suppose? Kind of, how do you feel, or what would you say to them perhaps?
So the first thing I would say is don't be afraid to speak to somebody. And the first point of getting through that is actually just saying to someone, can I have a chat? No one, especially on this this program, is going to judge. And the very high likelihood is that when you speak to someone, we've felt the same, we've had the same stresses, and we've had the sleepless nights. So we're all in it together. I would say anybody that wants to get in touch with me, my door is always open. My phone, I can be phoned, email me, contact me through social media. More than happy to take a call at any time. It massively helped me talking to my colleagues, and obviously a very close group of colleagues when we were out in furlough, etc., and the challenges through COVID. But yeah, just someone to listen will massively help, and signpost to further places if you need more support, and that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Well, David, it's been a real pleasure to catch up. I know you've been incredibly busy, but it's brilliant to have you as part of our Get Travel Talking Champion scheme. And we know, like you said, everyone on the course is so committed, so passionate about this, and so kind of ready and willing to give up their time and to help people. So thanks again for being part of it, David. Really, really appreciate it.
And thank you very much, Tom. It's appreciated on my side too.